Hello, my fellow chemistry enthusiasts. As you all know, my name is Melody Joy Drummond, and this is a presentation on the synthesis of melatonin and its role in the human sleep-wake cycle. An overview of our topics. What is the sleep-wake cycle? Basics of melatonin synthesis, and medical applications. So, what is the sleep-wake cycle? The sleep-wake cycle is the alternation between wakefulness and sleep that closely matches the 24-hour day. This is a biological phenomenon that is technically independent of the 24-hour day we have here on Earth. But there's many factors that influence this circadian rhythm or sleep-wake cycle. An example of the internal factors are temperature, which, as you can see with the graph on the left, that temperature dramatically decreases during your sleep hours. Heart rate and blood pressure, metabolic activity, and hormones, which we'll discuss in depth in terms of the hormone melatonin. External factors include temperature, and although we talked about internal factors of temperature being influence, also people say that they can sleep better when the room or the environmental temperature is cooler. Light is another example of an external factor, and it is one of the more significant, if not the significant external factor, and we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. And then noise stimulus or noise level. So as with any stimuli, when you have noise and light and a lot of motion going around you, obviously that is associated with wakefulness because it is harder to fall asleep under those conditions. So, a little bit of the human anatomy that is behind melatonin. The suprachiasmatic nucleus is in the hypothalamus, and it's the center for the sleep-wake cycle. It monitors external factors to somewhat regulate many of the internal factors that affect sleep, especially stimulating and inhibiting certain hormone secretions as a response to light and darkness. So melatonin, which the molecule is shown in the bottom right, is a hormone produced in the pineal gland, and it is the primary hormone in regulating the sleep-wake cycle, and as we just said, is regulated by the SCN, or suprachiasmatic nucleus. So melatonin levels are highest during the nighttime and lowest during the daytime, and it influences many biological factors to increase sleep and sleepiness. An example is thermoregulation, which is it decreases the secretion of melatonin, decreases the body's overall temperature at nighttime. So, the biochemical pathway or the synthesis of melatonin. So, the beginning molecule that we start with is tryptophan, and as many of you may well know, tryptophan is one of the 20 essential amino acids. So, tryptophan turns into 5-hydroxytryptophan with the enzyme tryptophan hydroxylase and its coenzymes. So, as it is stated in the name or the term of the enzyme hydroxylase, this hydroxyl group or OH group is added to tryptophan, as we can see here. And so it is added to tryptophan, and then it turns into 5-hydroxytryptophan. Then the enzyme aromatic L-amino acid decarboxylase is used as a decarboxylase to take off carbon dioxide of 5-hydroxytryptophan, turning it into 5-hydroxytryptamine. So 5-hydroxytryptamine actually has a better term for it, or a more well-known term, as serotonin. And many of us know what serotonin is. It's a neurotransmitter that is found inside the body. So serotonin, or 5-hydroxytryptamine, is then turned into N-acetylserotonin. And serotonin N-acetyltransferase is the enzyme that does that. And it pretty much, as the name implies, transfers this acetyl group onto the 5-hydroxytryptamine. And so then normelatonin, or N-acetylserotonin, then turns into our final product, melatonin, with the use of, or the enzyme N-acetylserotonin O-methyltransferase. And once again, as the enzyme name implies, this methyl group is transferred on where that hydroxy group was first added, the hydroxyl group. You can see that this methyl group is actually added on to the oxygen there. And so then our final product is now melatonin, or N-acetyl-5-methoxytryptamine. So, medical applications. So just as a little bit of a review, we went over the synthesis of melatonin and then melatonin is released from the pineal gland pretty much at the beck and call of the suprachiasmatic nucleus, depending on the factors we mentioned before. And so one of those examples is the presence of light. And so when light is sensed in your eye, that information is sent to the brain, and the SCN inhibits the production of melatonin based on the presence of light. And we'll talk about how that's significant a little bit here. So, one of the more obvious treatments for or uses of melatonin is for sleep disorders. So, melatonin is shown to help an individual sleep, but the results are varied. A lot of research has been done on this topic. However, the efficacy or the statistical significance of some of the improvements of sleep is varying and quite contradictory in some cases. So, some studies show that melatonin only aids in sleep onset latency, and basically, what that means is how fast the individual can fall asleep. Others say that melatonin helps with overall quality of sleep, including duration. And so, like I said before, the statistical significance of how well melatonin helps with these two factors here is not enough for them to say it is a surefire way to treat primary sleep disorders, although many people take melatonin over the counter to fall asleep easier. Primary sleep disorders such as insomnia or narcolepsy, they haven't shown that melatonin is a surefire or a proven way to help with treating those disorders. So, like I said before, when it comes to light as an external factor, blind or completely blind populations of the human community cannot use light in or as the sensory information of light to be able to regulate the 24-hour circadian rhythm that they have. And so, some populations, like we said, have a shorter circadian rhythm, like 20-22 hours, and some have a naturally longer circadian rhythm, 26-27. But both ways, whether it's shorter or longer, can offset or be shifting throughout the timeline of these individuals' lifespan. And sometimes it can shift to a certain point where it's completely off of the 24-hour day that the rest of society is using as far as light source to be able to regulate their circadian rhythm. And so these shifted sleep wake cycles can cause many problems as far as wakefulness and alertness at times that they should be during interaction in society. So melatonin administered right before the sleep time or the desired bedtime of these completely blind individuals can help advance or shift their sleep phase to entrain or train their bodies to a better sleep wake cycle or a quote unquote normal sleep wake cycle that is more in tune with the 24-hour day period that the rest of society is using. A less obvious medical application as far as melatonin is concerned is sepsis. And sepsis is when the body works too hard to fight an infection. Pretty much the infection can go from one part of the body and spread throughout the body through the bloodstream. And so the immune system works really hard, sometimes too hard, and triggers this widespread inflammation response or inflammatory response. And so that, in combination with infection, could lead to multiple organ failure. And so a lot of studies have been done with the use of melatonin as a treatment for sepsis in animals, but not too many studies have been done in regards to its efficacy with humans. But the human population that it has been studied well on is babies or newborns. And so sepsis in newborns is often due to free radicals, especially reactive oxygen species. And so a specific study in Italy showed melatonin to significantly improve the clinical outcome by reducing some of the blood serum parameters of sepsis, like lipid perioxidation. Perioxidation is not spelled correctly here. And so, a little bit of this specific study in Italy, 3 of the 10 septic children who were not treated with melatonin died within 72 hours after diagnosis of sepsis. None of the 10 septic newborns treated with melatonin died. And so, this showed a significant improvement in their overall health outcomes with treatment of or use of melatonin for the treatment of these sepsis in these newborns. And so lipid perioxidation is just another blood serum parameter or factor that they can look at in your blood to see how much of these free radicals or oxygen species that can be damaging to the body and organs are inside this newborn. And so you can see with this graph on the right how this parameter, lipid perioxidation, is significantly decreased after melatonin has been administered during sepsis with these newborns. And so there are also other medical applications that are in the works or research is being studied. Some people are trying to see if melatonin can help with the fight against cancer. However, that research is few and far between and not statistically significant to move forward in any specific direction as of yet. So that is my presentation on melatonin. Here are my references. And as you know, you can type your questions in or submit them on eClass. Make sure to do them 8 p.m. by Wednesday night. And so thank you so much for watching.